I mean, it can elevate everything so much, but it can also destroy so much. And you can, if something is not very well lit, you might miss some important part. I mean, lighting is also all the time about directing the audience eyes a little bit, what is important right now, what is not. So if you maybe miss something because it's somewhere like in the dark corner, that would be a shame. And that's something that you can come up with lights a lot. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's so lovely to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
It's a great pleasure. I love your work. I saw you've done
Thank you.
some amazing work. And I would so love to hear more about your story, how you became a lighting designer and all the work that you're doing.
Yeah, of course. I'm happy to share, obviously.
Where are you based?
So I'm based in Wiesbaden right now.
Okay. And you are originally from Germany?
Yes, so I grew up around Frankfurt and then moved to the UK to study, and now I'm back in Germany.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm basically wherever people need a light designer, I'm happy to travel around. I mean, it's one of the
Amazing.
great pleasures, isn't it?
The perks of the job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But lighting design. So, where did the interest come from?
Oh God. Um, so initially when I came to theater, I thought I would become a sound person because I studied music and like classical drums and percussion before. So I was like, okay, becoming a sound person is kind of the obvious choice. And then first day we had to hang up some lights, and then at the end of the day we just turned them on, turned off the work lights, and was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I love this. I want to do this instead. Because it changed the room so much. Having just some lights pointing somewhere, just we just turned them on to check if they're working or not. And it was just already so magical, and I loved it, and I wanted to pursue lighting. And then I had the fantastic opportunity to study an MA in light design, and I
Amazing.
took it. Yeah.
Mm. But of course, you said now that you studied music, percussion. I
Yeah.
saw a picture of you with your drumsticks, and I wondered about that. But of course, then you were already exposed to the theater and
Yes.
performing and so on. So you must have also realized that that's an important part of performing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in the end, I still love to play drums. It was more of a like jobs are very rare if you are a musician. It's quite hard. So I was like, okay, I don't want to hunt jobs my whole life. I want to have something steady if I want to. But I love this energy at the theater and all the like crazy people running around, and then everything went crazy for 2 weeks, and then we have a premiere. I say, oh my God, this is so cool, and I love to be part of this.
And it's always so interesting for me to hear about the behind the scenes part because actually, like you said, you notice the lighting. I think when you're in the theater, everything blends into each other. So, it's you notice lights, but it's then part of the whole performance.
And yeah, ideally everything like works together as like one big picture. Um, but still you can do so much stuff during a performance with lights, which is like very subtle. Like you can have different colors popping out. For example, some of like a specific costume and they pop out like a tiny little bit. So like, okay, this person might become important in the future. Um, but also if you like imagine you have like an opera and you have the main character and she's like she has a beautiful costume on, she's singing beautifully, but she's lit slightly weird, so she has like very dark shadows under her eyes, and like and the audience might notice this. It's like, okay, something is not like completely fine with her, so
Oh
let's
yeah.
see where this is going, like a little foreshadowing.
Oh, I
um
see what you mean. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. And so you have to be part of the whole uh, production in the sense that you have to completely understand the story. You have to understand all the characters, what they, the whole character development as well, so that you can assist with the lighting in that sense.
Ideally, yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously, light design is also like a craftsman's job. So you can light a show without knowing the story, just making sure all the lighting angles are correct,
Okay.
and everyone is visible. That's obviously also an option. But yeah, I prefer so much more to just be in the room, learn about the characters, develop the characters with like the directing, um, so you can also enhance these ideas with the lighting, which is sometimes possible. I mean, especially in Germany, it's not very common that a light designer is present during the whole process. So most
Oh,
of the time,
okay.
I'm joining quite late.
Mm.
Um, and if it's possible, I'm always happy to just jump into rehearsal, say hi, and see what's going on, and maybe like get an idea of, okay, this is the way we're going. But this depends from production to production.
Oh, okay. So when you studied lighting, tell me about the course that you did. How long do you study for a lighting designer?
So in the UK, you can study a bachelor in light design, which is 3 years. Um, but this is basically starting at the very beginning of like how do lights work? How can we make them work? Um, and I did an apprenticeship before here in Germany, which means I had already a quite good understanding from the technical side. So I was like, okay. So I texted them, was like, is it possible that I can do the master in light design, even though I just have an apprenticeship? I don't have a bachelor. And they were like, yeah, sure. I mean, just send us
Oh,
your portfolio. We can have a look at it. Um, and they said, yeah, we can make that happen. We're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
yeah.
Um, so I studied the Master of Arts in Light and Performance at Rose Bruford College in London. And I just loved it. It's one of the most amazing courses. We had an amazing head of the course. He's funny enough, his name's Hansjörg. He's also from Germany.
Really?
Yeah. Um, and he just did an amazing job with us. And he invited so many amazing people to come and just have a chat with us or do a workshop with us. So we met already during the course so many amazing light designers from all over the world and like different backgrounds. So we met people who do only light design for dance or ballet, or light designers for like rock and roll concerts and everything in between.
But that's amazing because, of course, all these different performances requires different lighting.
Yes, yes, and it's interesting. Um, Also, like one of the examples, we had a course with Patrick Woodruff. He's like one of the most famous light designers. He did like everything from the Rolling Stones over AC/DC, and now he's doing Adele. Um, but he also did a show at the Salzburg Festival. So he did a West Side Story there. And I think it's so interesting to have someone who works in a different environment normally, like in
Yeah.
live concerts, which is obviously, I mean, still we use the same lights, but they're used completely different. And have him light a show, which is like classical theater show setting, um, makes it so much more interesting than having someone who lit their whole life different operas and then they'd light another opera.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say would be the skill to be able to do that? You know, that you have on the one hand this live rock concert and on the other hand this classical theater. So what is it that makes the difference? What is it in you that you would say would be different?
I think most of the job is being able to communicate and um, either like talk your ideas out with someone without maybe even showing them. So you can just explain your ideas, and then have a conversation about what the other person wants. The other person could be the artist lit on stage or the director. And then you just have a conversation about, okay, what is it, what we need right now? And then it's like a trade-off of ideas. So sometimes when I feel very strongly about an idea, I try to like push it into the production a little bit. Sometimes for some scenes, I don't have a great idea or that I don't feel strong
Okay.
about my ideas. So it's like a trade-off. Same with the artist. So if you have a band on stage or a singer, um, they obviously need to feel that they are right in their lights right now. So this is like a whole conversation about what do we need right now, and then it's again the craftsman's part of the job where you're like, okay, how can I achieve this now? Um, but I think most of the job is just communicating with different other people.
Do you think it's important that you do all these different types of things as a lighting designer? Or do you think it's good to focus on one specific thing?
Mm, I mean, I like to do different things just because it keeps me entertained, and it's nice to light an opera or ballet in 1 week and then a concert in the next week. Um, Also just to have like a different visual input. So you see
Oh yeah.
different stuff on stage. It's like, okay, yeah, cool, this is inspiring. I have to like take a mental note about this. And the next week is something completely different, and you have to like rethink the whole system again to achieve something else.
Do these different performances and the lighting of the performances, do they sort of overlap or inspire each other, or do you get from the one something that you can tweak a little bit to do in the other one?
I would definitely agree. Yes. I mean, when you see like live concert and you see like thousands of lights shining into the audience, this is something that you normally won't see in theater. But it's nice to have this like as a background idea, and maybe you can have like a little moment in theater where you have something like this. Same goes the other way around. So in theater, we think a lot about, okay, how can we make people look very pretty on stage? What do we need to make them like a look a bit brilliant? What doesn't look good? And all these things obviously also apply to live concerts. So how can we easily make a band look great without like putting so much effort into it?
But lighting has developed so much, and the whole just digitally, I think it changed so much. So, do you learn also from lighting designers who worked, a few years ago, where things were so different?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, we're obviously quite privileged that we have moving lights, so we don't have to have someone climb up a ladder and focus the light for us. We can just do it from the desk, and someone's just typing some numbers, and then the moving light's pointing on stage where we want it. But that doesn't change the initial idea of we have to think about where we put it and what angle does it make on stage. Um, we're obviously a bit more flexible, but it makes sense to still think about, okay, if we only have conventional lights, we would put them there and there and there. Let's put the moving lights according to that so we achieve same angles, we achieve same looks, we can make stuff look brilliant or maybe not brilliant. So it's still the same idea, even though the lights are now moving and are maybe a bit more powerful, which is nice. So you just have more punch if you need it. You need less fixtures to illuminate like a big stage, which gives you many, many more opportunities to different light settings where you maybe cover the whole stage just with one fixture, which is unthinkable back in the days.
Yeah. And also, do you work on film as well?
No, never
Okay.
done
Is
that.
that a,
I mean,
is that a different is that a different type of? I mean, is that also requires a different skill set?
yes. I mean, we had some workshops for lighting for film during my studies, um, and it's just so differently. And it's funny because it's so artificial. So even when they do like a day shot in like, for example, like a big living room, normally they cover up all the windows and make artificial lights look like it's daylight just so they
Really?
have more control about it. Yeah, it's really interesting if you see it. when they cover up like all the big windows and stuff, just to then make light again, just so to have more control about it, which is really interesting. Um, and yeah, I mean, it obviously requires a different skill set than live theater. Also, just because you have the opportunity to reshoot scenes. So if something's not completely right, you can just go back, do it again, do it differently. Whereas live theater, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, and I've not, you don't think about it, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
absolutely true. Also, when you talk to actors, it's different, it's quite a different way of doing it. But you talked
Yeah.
about having an apprenticeship before you went to study, which
Yes.
is actually interesting because just in the week I spoke to a composer and he talked about studying himself. He sort of self-taught, and but then he went to study, and then he also knew exactly what the questions were he wanted answered and what the things were that he
Mhm.
was interested in. So, did you find it as well that after doing the apprenticeship and then go and study, that you are more secure in what you want and what you need for what you want to do?
Mhm. Yes, definitely. Also, like, I mean, I understood the technical part of everything, so I was already like one step ahead of people who need to understand the technical part first and then can start to design. But obviously, you're still a bit more focused on what you learned during your apprenticeship about. I mean, we also learned about like lighting positions, how to light stuff during the apprenticeship, so you already have like an opinion of how to do a scene. Whereas if someone has no idea about lights, they might do something that's not very common, but might be super interesting.
Mm. Oh, yeah, I understand what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sort of when you don't know the restrictions, you're sort of freer to think,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But so you think there's a benefit for both sides. So either going in raw or going in with that experience.
Yes, I mean, when I studied, we were 8 people in our course, and 4 of us had like a lighting background. And 4 came from a completely different background. So we had a dancer, an actor, set design, and a
Oh,
visual artist. And I think we learned so much from each other just because people come from a different background. They experience different stuff. They learned about different stuff. So, for example, what I found super interesting was the person who did visual arts before. She talked about rules of how much of a picture you have like very highlighted, then you have something that is like a bit brighter, and then you have a dark part, and there are like percentage rules about it in like different theories. And this is obviously something that you can take and just try it on stage and see if that works, and it kind of does.
oh, yeah. It's actually I think of it also in photography. Sometimes you see a photograph but you don't realize, but there is that darkness and light and
Yeah.
the percent or the relation to each other. So that's interesting. And from dancers' perspective, because that's also a different form of lighting because there's movement the whole time.
Yes, and I love to light dance
Really.
because just they do stuff with their whole body. So like during dramas and during operas, you always need to see their face because this is where most of the emotions coming from,
Yeah.
which gets elevated through like arms and like movement. Um, but for dance, it's not so important to see the face all the time. Also because I mean, dance is quite exhausting, isn't it? So they're like,
Yeah.
so you probably want to cover up that a little bit. But because they do stuff with their whole body, um, it's important to always see their whole body. But you don't have to be so focused on the face, and you can light stuff so much more freely. You can shoot from the sides, from the back. You just have to illuminate their body. Um, and you can achieve much more interesting looks that you could never pull off doing like an opera, for example.
Do you have to discuss this with the director if you want to try something new and or something different?
Yes. I mean,
Um,
ideally, before you have like some sort of idea where this might be going, but also during lighting rehearsals, they might sit behind you and be like, okay, this looks nice, but doing this part, I really need to see their faces, for example. And you're like, okay, fair enough, then we might use this idea later, or we might change it a little bit and adapt it more to the director's choice.
oh, okay. And are they quite open for new ideas? Because you must have also, as a designer, new things that you know about that maybe the director doesn't know about.
Yeah, that depends from process to process. So sometimes people are super open and just be like, "Oh, show me something, and I will let you know if I like it or not."
Oh, okay. Mm.
So you can just keep on offering them stuff, which is nice. Sometimes they already know, okay, I want this to look like this to look like this, and then you're just delivering this in like the most like efficient way. Um, always depends on the person. So it's quite nice to before you start actually lighting the show to just get to know the person, see what their process is like, what they feel strong about, and where you can jump in and like elevate the whole show.
I've
Yeah.
seen a few ballet performances here at the Staatsoper, and some of the lighting was so beautiful and so part of the whole story that it's such a crucial, actually such a crucial part of it.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it can elevate everything so much, but it can also destroy so much. And you can, if something is not very well lit, you might miss some important part. I mean, lighting is also all the time about directing the audience eyes a little bit, what is important right now, what is not. So if you maybe miss something because it's somewhere like in the dark corner, that would be a shame. And that's something that you can come up with lights a lot.
So you are freelance, and
Yeah.
how do you? Is it? How can I put this? But you have to market yourself as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, as every freelancer, I have to see that I find clients.
Yeah.
um, but it's quite nice because like theater is like a little family and
Um,
a very strong network. So when you do one job and you do it well, you meet people who work in other theaters and they might remember you when it comes to deciding for a new show at their theater and so on and so on.
so it's just building that network.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Are you a good businessman?
Not at all. No, when I started to freelance, I had to learn about all of this tax stuff and
Oh,
everything. And
really?
oh God, it was a nightmare. Really, I got so many rude letters from the financial department of the city, being like, "Oh, you have to give us this, you have to pay this." Like, okay, sorry, it's not on purpose. I just don't know.
That
Yeah,
is usually the answer that I get when I ask this question. So
yeah,
you're not the only one.
yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm very
Um,
good at turning on and off lights, but that doesn't mean that I know how taxes work.
yeah. Yeah, well, that's a skill. That I spoke to the dean of a business school in South Africa, and he said that, you can't blame people because business is, it's selling and marketing, and that it's also exercise. You also have to
Exactly.
you focus on that and improve yourself. And so if you're not in that field, it's normal that that you don't have all those
Yeah,
skill sets. So
yeah. And I
mm.
feel like theater and arts are very far from any business field. I mean, if you work in something that's a bit more connected to business, you might already know some stuff, but I didn't know anything.
Yeah. And in your course, did they touch on that? When you study, do they touch
Yes,
on
we had some
that?
lecturers coming in telling us about taxes and stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the UK, it's a bit different, but
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
it
yeah,
was still super helpful.
yeah. So just that spoiler, guys, you can't just have fun, you have to pay as well.
Uh, I mean, I'm happy to pay taxes. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it's a great system. I just, when I started freelance, I was like, okay, maybe there is some like freelance guidebook from the government where you're just like, okay, you want to start a freelance business. This is the stuff you have to do. And something like this just doesn't exist,
Oh yeah, yeah,
which is a shame because I think it
yeah.
would be super helpful because there's so many people starting a business,
Exactly.
and most of them don't have any idea about taxes, as you said.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, no, that's true, and especially for artists because this it's a complete different industry as well.
Yeah,
Than having a shop or having a restaurant.
exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. And I feel like many people who are freelancing in this industry, I mean, we don't want to hide any taxes or something like that. It just happens because we don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not intentional that you do that.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
But Henry, you're saying now that you love to work all over the world and do different things. Um, is there some productions where you have total free hand and where you can just do your own thing?
Normally not. No.
Oh, okay.
Which is fine because it's nice to have some like parts along the way where like, okay, this is the road I'm driving on. I can't go like off this road. Um, because you always have people having an interest in the way you light something. So, for example, if I light a play, I obviously have the director sitting with me. Um, they obviously want to see something, but also the set designer. They want their set to look pretty.
Oh yeah.
So they're also so it might be a moment where they jump in and be like, "Can you make more light on the set?" And like, yeah, sure, I can make that. And then again, it's this conversation about, is this necessary right now? Why do we need that? Um, Same thing goes with all the other departments. So if we have video in a show, it's obviously um, quite close working together because if I have too much light on stage, you can't see the video. Um,
Oh yeah.
Other way around, I need some light on stage so video can not just do what they want to do. Um, and so you have like a couple of people in the room where you have to just communicate back and forth about what they want in this moment, about what I feel like this scene needs, and what we're gonna do in the end.
But no, when you talk like that, I'm thinking, how do you remember everything? Do you have little notes everywhere? And because you have to be focused like constantly on the performance.
Yeah, I mean, lighting a show is quite intensive. And whenever we had like 8 hours of lighting rehearsals, I'm just sitting in a dark room thinking nothing.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, normally I have my notes with me about what I want to do for which scene. I have a piano score or the textbook with me. I have a lighting plot with me, and then normally the table is too small, so I just drop something on the side. Um, I mean, yeah, and then it's just this constant conversation for 8 hours. Obviously, also most of the time over intercoms, I'm talking to a programmer. So most of the time, I'm not programming myself, so I have someone to just take care of the desk part. Um, so once we're done with deciding in this team of video set director and me what we want to do, I have to kind of explain it to another person who's actually doing it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
which is quite nice and I think very important because they can just take care of the programming part and they can take care of all the numbers and that everything is like saved correctly and in a way that it makes sense for us.
Mm.
Um, because if you also have to take care of that, at some point it's just okay. I'm turning off now.
Too much.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, but this is amazing. You've opened up the world of lighting for me now. You don't think of all these things when you go and see a performance, or when you
Wow.
see the stage with all the beautiful lights in. But
Yeah.
what is the dream? What are the wishes for you for the future, or for the next few years?
Um, I mean, right now I'm super happy where I'm at,
Mm.
and I think wishes for the next years would just be learning, getting to learn new people and having interesting conversations and interesting productions.
More of the
Um,
same.
yeah, yeah,
Mm. But how wonderful, yeah. How wonderful that you can, do this and um, feel this fulfillment.
yes. And I mean, it's obviously a big privilege that, like in Germany, for example, also in the UK, we have such a strong cultural system, which is
Mm.
so good funded. I mean, over here, a bit better than in the UK. So we can do all that. We can just put some creative people in the room and let them make their art and have a performance of some sort, and they can live off of that. I mean, that's amazing.
That's absolutely true. And that is a privilege, because um, in other countries, sometimes you have people who do this, but then they have to have a job on the side to support them, because they can't,
Exactly.
yeah, earn money from it. And do
Yeah.
you think it are young people? Do you think this is a type of career where young people, um, can get inspired to do? Because you sometimes think this is these behind the scenes jobs are not. It's not like people look at an actor and think, "Oh, I want to become an actor," because behind the scenes jobs are not always so, uh, uh, that we know about.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I feel like if you have the character traits for this, like for example, me, I like to be a part of this whole creative madness, but I don't want to be on stage. I don't like to be in the spotlight. Um, so I, for me, find the perfect spot in the theater, and I feel like other people who like to work in the arts, they can find their spot as well, even though they don't want to stand on stage, for example, or don't want to be a dancer or a choreographer, for example.
Yeah, that's true. It's then the best of both worlds for you.
Yeah, and I mean, many people just don't know how many different jobs you can have in a theater. So, like in big
Exactly.
theaters, you can do everything from carpenter, you can be a painter, you can paint all these amazing sets that we have in theater. You can be a sound technician, you can be, I mean, you can work in the administrative stuff if you want to. If that's what you would like to do as your job, but you still want to be a part of the theater, go for it.
Mm. I just think here at the Staatsoper in Vienna as well, it's like I always think it's like an anthill, it's you don't
Oh yeah.
you don't know what's going on,
Yeah.
but there's so much going on underneath the surface there.
Yes.
We just go and we see the stage, yet so much happens behind the scenes.
Yeah. I was there for a tour last year in the Staatsoper in
Really?
Vienna. Yeah, and it was so nice because I was during the day and there were like 200 people running around on stage building up a new set for the evening.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's one of the most interesting things to see how
Mm.
everything comes together because I mean in the evening everything looks pretty, but the way to have that,
Mm.
that's actually the interesting part.
Exactly. Yeah. I used to work there, and
Yeah.
this is why I know I know all the people. And during the day, it's busy, busy, busy. And then
Yeah.
almost at night, then still these people have to work behind the scenes, but it's almost like, okay, now it's happening, But during the
Yeah.
day, everybody's running around and doing, and the
Yeah.
costumes get ready, and all that. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
true. It's amazing. And as an audience, when you sit in the audience, you don't know this. You just see all these beautiful things and everything works so fluently. But yeah, there's a world behind that.
Yes, and this is one of, like, for me, this is the most magical moment in theater. It's the moment shortly before the audience entrance when you turn off all the work lights and you see the stage lights for the first time on the full build set. It's like, okay,
Really?
wow. Yeah, I mean, this is so amazing.
Mm,
And this is like a split second, and now everything looks so different
mm,
and so much more beautiful. And it's not about work and like putting the effort in to build this. Now it's about enjoying this and making this look beautiful for the audience.
wow. I never thought of that, but yeah, that moment before it happens.
Yeah. What
Mm.
did you do at the Staatsoper?
I worked in the what they call solo gang. It's the part where the soloists of the opera get dressed and
Ah,
their dressing room. So I
yeah.
assisted there. So I met
Nice.
wonderful people, and also you are in the evenings both with performances. You are there and behind the scenes, and yeah, it
Yeah.
was a great experience. I absolutely loved it. And met so many wonderful people. There's so much beauty in the arts, really, even behind the scenes. Not just
Yeah.
theater, the plays or the operas, but also the people behind it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. But Henry, this was so great to talk to you. I hope when you
Yeah.
visit Vienna again, you have to let me know.
I will. I will.
And we can grab a coffee.
That sounds very nice. I'm looking forward to that.
And all the best with the great work you're doing. I'm following you on Instagram and LinkedIn, so I'll be looking at all your beautiful lighting design.
Thank you so much. Thanks
It's
for having me.
It's a great pleasure.